it's I guess we'll get into it right now. Like it's my understanding that you are a big proponent of regenerative farming. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I want to first just acknowledge how glad I am that you're so aware of mycelium and the the need to realign with fungi. The longest living organism on the planet, and a friend of mine, Paul Stamets, he's a mycologist.
Yep.
He and this guy Louis Schwartzberg, who does amazing time lapse photography, they made this film called Fantastic Fungi.
Seen it.
You seen it?
Oh yes.
Just blasting it out there. Whoever's watching this, if you haven't seen that, go on Netflix and watch Fantastic Fungi. I think it's the most important film of the century, probably, for so many reasons, including healing soil and the necessity to heal soil for our survival on this planet, and regenerative agricultural practices being so crucial in realigning with nature, and instead of trying to dominate it with monocultural factory farming and spraying pesticides on everything, and massive chemical corporations trying to control food production all over the world. I've been pretty involved in a group in Hawaii called the Hawaiian Farmers Union United. I highly recommend becoming a member of that group because
what do they do?
Well, they're involved in not just farmer mentorship programs and regenerative agricultural programs and things like that. In Hawaii, they have chapters all over the islands, but they're also involved in legislation, so they can write policy and influence policy around what gets subsidized and all these types of things, what becomes included in new farm bills and things like that on a federal level even. And so the more members they have, the more influence they have. You don't even have to live in Hawaii. But their president, Vincent Mina, is a friend of mine, and I've organized some fundraisers, music concerts and things for them. Growing up on Maui, eating food every day and just seeing how much is imported. It's insane. You can grow year round in Hawaii. The soil is, it needs to be, the microbiome needs to be so much healthier there. And it's been so depleted by decades of sugarcane industry and pineapple industry and these non-regenerative forms of agriculture there that kills the soil so that it can't absorb rainwater. So when it rains, that just creates runoff, kills the coral reefs, all of these things. So it's like so many issues we talk about with the environment all come down to healthy soil.
Yes.
When you have that healthy 7 to 8 inches of topsoil, it can absorb rain, which prevents runoff, which makes for more nutritious food and healthier crops. And it keeps the carbon in the ground, which is where we want it.
Yeah.
And cover cropping, growing plants like
clover, hemp. Yeah.
Hemp is a huge carbon sink. It sequesters more carbon than trees.
I did not know that.
Per acre. Yeah, like 1 acre of hemp, it sequesters the same amount of carbon as an acre of rainforest, except hemp grows, from seed to maturity in like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And it requires very little water, 0 pesticides. Then you can use the entire plant to make food, fuel, fiber, building materials, medicine. It's just got thousands and thousands of uses. Bioplastics.
Yes,
batteries.
Bioplastic. I'm going to stop you right there because I didn't realize that you could make plastic out of hemp, and it's like we need to do that. The other day I bought some food. It was probably like 2 weeks ago, and it was a bioplastic. It was like, this is made from hemp, and I was like, fucking fine. Well, that blew my mind, so I got on the internet and I had to Google this. And I was like, we could have plastics, and we could just, I mean, obviously don't litter, but you could just chuck in and it would it's biodegradable. Yeah, man. Like,
compost. Yeah.
so I'm very hopeful for the future. I think that we're figuring shit out. We've decriminalized a lot of these medicines. We're fuck William Randolph Hearst. This is all his fault, but we've figured out that hemp is a miracle plant. Or, I mean, a lot of people knew, but I think that we're going to begin to see massive production of it. It already is happening in Canada, and to a lesser degree, it's happening in the United States. But I don't know, like you're a little bit more educated on me about this issue. Like, how are we starting to see like industrial hemp farms in the United States?
It's a long game. We're playing the long game. It's not coming quickly, but it's coming. It's happening. We're seeing more companies. The problem is the infrastructure for industrial hemp needs to return to what it was during World War II, for instance. If you YouTube hemp for victory, you'll get this amazing U.S. government propaganda film from World War II, which is encouraging patriots of America to grow hemp for the war effort, for ropes and body armor and parachutes. My grandfather was a paratrooper in World War II. His parachute was made of hemp canvas.
Yeah.
Every farmer in America was subsidized. Every 4-H club got money from the government to grow hemp. It was basically illegal not to grow it because of its miraculous properties industrially. And like you said, that whole history got buried. The plastics and big oil and automobile industry and all these things, they squashed all of that. But I agree, we're in a very hopeful time right now because people are re-educating themselves about this and recognizing that not only is industrial hemp and pharmaceutical hemp multi-million, billion, bajillion, Brazilian dollar industries. You create tons of jobs, green jobs, but just by planting this crop, you're phytoremediating soil. It just naturally pulls out toxic metals and radiation from the soil.
I did not.
And you're also sequestering tons and tons of carbon. And so, if our government's really serious about, doing all that, bringing jobs to America, creating a value economy here in our home turf and bringing back local jobs, then they need to legalize hemp, just liberate hemp. It's like, that's really what we're up against. Is there's so many stupid regulations that are not backed up by science or anything. Like, if you have 0.3%, 0.03% or something THC in your hemp crop, you have to destroy it.
Yeah.
It's a drug and it's illegal. And it's like, nobody's smoking their hemp, it's like, there's weed for that. Yeah. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's legal in most places. You don't, and you're not going to get high anyway. There's such a small amount of, so it's like stupid little red tape shit. Like, we need to raise the limit to like 3% THC. Yeah. Even that, you're not going to get high from it unless you smoke a field of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But and who cares anyway? Yeah. Like, why? Okay, people get high all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not about that anymore. I think even people who, it's like either representatives are ignorant to all of these facts about it, and they grew up with, the devil's lettuce propaganda and reefer madness and shit. But, and they think it's this countercultural hippie thing, but it's really like industrial hemp. Like the founding fathers grew that.
Exactly.
Like the pilgrim ships, the sails were made of hemp. Yeah. It's like, they all grew it, and it's really just got so many conservative values built into it. Not just historically, but like bringing back wealth to rural America. Giving farmers a cash crop again, something they can sustain their livelihoods with.
It's better than corn.
Yeah. Or cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton uses so many It's like 16% of the world's toxic pesticides are the cotton industry.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's about convincing that cotton farmer whose daddy grew cotton and my granddaddy grew cotton and then great granddaddy. It's like, well, what if you called it a textile farmer? You grow textiles.
Yeah.
Your father grew textiles. Your granddaddy grew textiles. What about this textile crop where you don't have to spend any money on pesticides that kill your soil? You don't have to spend all that resources like water and everything that goes into cotton manufacturing, and make more money and do less work and with less resources and heal your soil at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just education is key. And then you're also up against who's funding these Congress people, big oil,
so
big chemical companies.
There's like a few things. So, I think 2-3 years ago, there was a law passed where you could transport hemp. So we could get it on trucks and whatnot. I think another problem is because it's an emerging industry, because I have some friends that are farmers and they went all in on hemp, but to find buyers for it was really difficult and very shady. A lot of shade balls within an industry, any new industry, like, you're a member of the music industry in the, 60s, 70s, 80s, like a lot of record labels fucked the artists. There's still a lot of that going on, Spotify and all that shit. Right. But so I think that as it becomes more widespread and adopted, and tactics are made and reputable buyers, I think then people will go out on a limb, but a lot of people got fucked. But I mean, I definitely think I share your vision, and I definitely think it's the crop of the future. You can make better clothes, like everything's better by far. I think it's just getting to that point, getting the reputable buyers, getting buy-in and promoting it. It would be nice to get a push from, the government to promote this and get it going, or at least, raise that
it's going to take all of it. It's going to take government, federal subsidies, and the private sector investing. But until the laws are lifted, people are going to be paranoid about investing because, am I going to get busted for having THC? Or on top of that, it's also a logistics thing, because to process a huge field of hemp, you need a decorticator, which is a very large, very expensive piece of machinery. We don't really have many of those anymore, and we have to have those in order to get your product to a buyer. So there's just logistical things, legal things. We're getting there. We're pushing, but your words are so valuable, and your message and your podcast, because everything we're talking about, this is how things change. The culture is having these conversations, and it gets in people's ear, and it changes things. And it doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't.
But it's a long game.